Dear our guests, our audience, and dear listeners, welcome to our first episode of our webinar series. On the other side of this session, there's going to be Mr. Enrico Bagetta from Interplume. Hello, Enrico.
Hi, Fatih.
I'll start
Hello,
with a brief introduction of our company. Is that okay for you?
Of course, yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Maya Textile was founded in 1993 by Mr. Yavuz Demirel to produce down and feather field items. Now, after 29 years, we became a company that exports its products to more than 60 countries worldwide with our own brand, such as Penelope and Otello. Our company has its own down washing line. It's the one and only in Turkey. We have end-to-end services from individual customers up to hotels and chain stores. Maya's Professional is our brand that is dedicated to hotel supplies, private label, and down jacket business. I am personally a textile engineer with an MBA degree and working in Maya Textile for 13 years. My current position is the general manager of our washing plant, and I'm also the head of our integrated strategy planning board. Enrico,
Yes.
will you please let us know more about yourself and Interplume?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. My name is Enrico Bagetta. I was born in Italy. I have a dual nationality. I'm both Italian and French today. I have a British higher education and a postgraduate in international business studies from London. I have more than 27 years in international markets, initially in the wine business and winemaking business, and for the past 12 years in down and feather. I've joined Interplume, as I said, 12 years ago. Maya was one of the first customers I had the privilege of meeting. Since then, with Maya, we have built a very solid relationship that today transcends business. There's a human aspect to our relationship, so we tend to help each other out and advise each other out regarding products, quality, market stuff. So I'm very happy to be here today to tell you about down and feather, which are products I found extremely fantastic in terms of what they represent. They represent nature, they represent sustainability, durability. They represent healthy options in terms of bedding and also apparel. And all in all, I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in business. So here we go.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start with my questions. I prepared like 15 questions to you. Some of them really hard. Some of them are easy for you. So don't be afraid. My first question is, what is down and what is feather? Simply.
Right. Down and feather is the plumage that we find on waterfall. Why do you say waterfall? Because, for example, other birds like chicken, turkey, and the sorts, they don't have down. Down is really only typical of waterfall. Down consists of the first layer of a very fluffy material on the front of the animal, while the feather covers the rest of the body, and it has a different function in terms of what the use of it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. The second question is, what is a down cluster and what is the difference between a feather and a down cluster? That is important, I guess.
Right. Sorry, I was checking if I could share my screen. I wanted to show what it is. Now, a down cluster, it's similar to a three-dimensional snowflake. with hundreds of fiber filaments coming out of a central soft nucleus. Feather has a hard stem from which hair-like filaments grow. They're called feather fibers or barbs. And we have to know that down is the component providing the high thermal insulation, whether it's on the birds or in textile products, by creating an air cushion trapped within interconnecting clusters. So what we are looking at in terms of, the products we're looking into this particular mix is down. Feather has more of sort of just filling space rather than insulating.
I see. Okay. The third question is actually, people think that every soft filling is the same. Okay. You have to tell us, what are the differences between down fiber, and crushed feathers. Okay. Can any of these be used as a replacement of each? Is that possible?
Possible, yes. You can use anything you like. You can use also carton and paper and whatever. The fact is, well, what you're aiming for, what's your type of quality. Now, I'll start with the crushed feather. Why? Because it has no value. It doesn't have comfort. It doesn't have insulation. I mean, it just fills space. And when it is used, it's used as a filling material for very low quality cushions, seating cushions, not even decorative and scattered cushions. It offers no resilience. It offers no elasticity. So as I said, yes, we can substitute crushed feather with anything else, basically. But crushed feather cannot be used to substitute feather and or down. Now, down fiber are the actual filaments coming out of the nucleus that during the process of washing and drying and sorting become detached. So we will also find a certain proportion of down fiber in any down filling. Now, can we use purely these filaments to replace down cluster? Why? Because down cluster has this ability of concatenating by interconnecting with the filaments of another cluster, creating a chain of, these particular elements, and is within all these filaments concatenating, the air will become entrapped, and therefore providing an insulating cushion of air. So we cannot replace down cluster with other fiber, just fibers, or feather or crushed feather.
Okay. So these are not the same and we cannot replace each other. I understand this. There's something different. Is there any difference between white and gray?
On the technical side, there's a very, very slight difference. Meaning, technically, in a market, gray material tends to be lower quality. Normally a class 2, class 3 material, while white material being the better and most consistent quality, especially French white, duck down, and feather material.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, I have to ask, what is class 1, class 2 refers to? That is also important to understand everything.
Right. Class 1, class 2, and down to class 7 really belong exclusively to the European normalization system regarding down and feather, specifically to the norm EN 12934, which defines the composition of a filling material and of a finished textile products filled with down and feather. When we talk about class 1 to 2, we are talking about the two highest qualities available on this scale, while 3 to 7 are progressively of a lower quality, and starting with 4, almost any sort of feather can be used, including chicken or any sort of elements that has no real value in terms of whether it's insulation or resiliency or elasticity. So what can I say more? The only difference really is between class 1 and class 2 is the proportion of down fibers that you may find. In a class 1 material, we will find up to 5% of loose down fibers, while in a class 2 down products, we may find up to 15% of down fibers. But overall, the performance won't be a difference in terms of field power, in terms of insulating values.
Okay, at this point, there's an important term, the filling power. What is it, and why is it important?
Filling power is the most important single criterion defining the absolute quality of down material. It indicates the volumes occupied by a given weight of material, normally expressed in cubic inches per 30 grams of down material, and that is across any standards worldwide. The higher the value, the greater the thermal insulation properties of the filling used with a down quilt, down jackets, or a down sleeping bag. The importance of this value can be explained by a simple financial consideration. When evaluating two different down fillings proposition with the same composition quality, for example, an EN 9010, you should check the field power indicated. Why? Well, let's say that Interplume EN 9010 down has a field power of 750 cubic inches, and of course a higher price because of its quality, while a competitor offers an equivalent material, EN90, but with a field power of only 550 cubic inches. Well, for an equal thermal insulation, so a lofting, that means the effect of filling that we can see in particular article, of course, is greater with a higher field power. Now, to achieve the same effect in terms of thermal insulation and the same lofting effects, you will need 36% more material with a cheaper one. So, when you look at the price of both items, and let's say that specifically my EN90 is worth 10 euros per kilogram, and this is just for show and tell purposes, while the cheaper is worth only 8 euros per kilogram. The total filling cost is what has to be seen, meaning that 1 kilogram of each will not achieve the same results. I mean, 750 cubic inches, 1 kilogram will provide a particular level of thermal insulation. For the cheaper one, to achieve the same level of the 9010 provided by Interplume, we require a 36% increase in weight. So when we look at the price, that means that for the cheaper down, to achieve the same quality of our down within finished textile products, you will have to spend 36% more and also get heavier products. Therefore, let's say that we have a small quilt, taking just one kilogram of filling for 10 euros. In order to have the same thermal insulation quality than ours, with a cheaper down, which only costs 8 euros per kilogram, you will need to spend 13.60 euros for the final cost of the filling that you used. And you also make your quilts heavier. So you have really no advantages in buying cheaper down.
I see. So I'm going to pick a specific sentence from your explanation.
Yeah.
Why is the high quality EN90 class 1 material down is expensive?
Yeah.
Or
most people that are, sorry.
Or shall we call it expensive simply? Is it expensive or not?
It's there's a progression in a cumulative value in down, because in the total mass of down and feather, when we receive raw material, once we have processed it, only about 10% of the weight will be down, the rest being feather. So we already have these particular elements to take into account. All will be down. This 10% will then be used to make anything from feather blends, let's say 10% down and 90% feather, all the way up to EN 100, which is the top of the top, really the best of them all. That will mean the higher we go in quality, the more down cluster will be used, the less feather will be used. And therefore, when you look at the cost that you have to allocate to this 10%, let's say once more, just for the argument's sake, our raw material costs 10 euros per kilogram.
Mm-hmm. That
will mean the value of down contained a particular kilogram will be worth 100 euros.
Yeah.
That particular kilogram. So, whereas, let's say the feather, the 100% feather, no down whatsoever, will have a very small value, like less than €1 per kilogram when we purchase it. And these are not real costs, it's just for making it easier to understand. So what happens is, first of all, we wash it, we sanitize it, we sterilize it, and then we sort it. The sorting is done through machines that have 4 chambers. Through a system of low and high pressure, we'll make this material circulate, and depending on weight, part of the material will remain in the first chamber. Smaller feather will fall into the second chamber. The smallest feather and some down will run into a third chamber, while in the fourth chamber we only find 100% down cluster, which afterwards will be used as components to make standard products. At a particular point, when we do the, and I will use again the EN standards for easiness of use, down starts at 60% within the European standards. So we will have a 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, and 100. Now, the 90-10 will be more expensive because you will have the second to last most high percentage of down cluster than any other.
Yeah.
So it's mechanical. It costs more because it takes most of the down clusters. It takes most of the quality. It takes most of what is needed to create something very light and also very insulating in terms of, again, the thermal insulation. So that's the reason why EN90, good quality EN90, has a higher price.
Okay, that's the point. Now I'm going to jump to another dimension of this issue, the sourcing. What is ethical sourcing? And what is the connection between traceability?
Right. Now, I'm pretty sure that most of you already have an idea of what ethical sourcing is, but concerning my point of view, our point of view, ethical sourcing is a sustainable and responsible approach to supply chain management and sourcing. This is to give a definition, a short definition. It is actually the process of ensuring that the products sourced are obtained through responsible and sustainable methods. This includes ensuring that the workers who make the products are paid a fair wage and all human rights are met. The factories are clean and safe environment to work in, and that all social and environmental aspects of production to the workers and the surrounding communities are taken into consideration. Although there are many reasons for an organization to want to ethically produce their products, companies often take the first step to ethically produce their products for the following reasons: to mitigate the risks, to reduce operating costs, but also to protect their brand image and meet customer demands. Right. So what you're looking at really is what in English called the CSR policies. so corporate social responsibility. Within the down and feather business, there's also another element, which is the ethical aspects inherent to the animals that will eventually be the source of the down and feather. So in recent years, the number of instances we integrated this practice to promote sustainability ethical standards have grown, more than 10 times. In a recent survey worldwide in the textile industry, buyers were asked how much it mattered to them to purchase ethically the products and components. And 81% of the surveyed buyers said it was very important to them. Okay. So going back to the animal aspects, which is really specific to bedding and apparel, animal welfare, animal well-being criteria have to be taken into consideration when evaluating a supplier within the context of ethical, sourcing. And since this criteria applies across all the stakeholders in the supply chain, not just, down and feather, but everything, we can see the importance of transparent traceability across all the stakeholders, the supply chain, and its certification by an independent body.
I see. So, sorry?
Is that clear?
Yeah, that is clear. Yeah, perfect. So at this point, how are we going to know that the item is ethically sourced? So we hear about some certificates, RDS, GRS, DOMPAS.
Sure. Yeah.
What are these and why are they important?
Yeah. Within the ethical sourcing policies, the GRS, RDS, and DOMPAS certificates are mostly specific to down and feather, and they're also the most important, for the bedding and apparel industry, as well as down and feather processes. The GRS, which is the Global Responsible Standards, covers the aspects, covers products that have been recovered. There are post-consumer fibers that have been recovered, reprocessed, and upcycled into new primary products. So basically, the GRS through is 3 different levels of certification will certify to both, the buyer and the final consumer the products they're purchasing is using at the very least 20% recycled fibers or components, and specifically at least 20% down and feather post-consumer down and feather, or 60 to 70%, or even 100%. And GRS 100% is when a product is entirely made up of recycled material and filled with 100% recycled down and feather. This is concerning the GRS. Now, in terms of new material, specifically material like covers, the main certification, the most recognized worldwide, RDS, which is an American certification owned by the Textile Exchange, and the DOMPAS certification, which is a European certification that originated in and the two of them are very similar in terms of the objective of being certified. Both of them will cover the animal well-being, animal welfare. RDS will be very specific about particular steps in the supply chain, from farm to processor, and from processors to final user and consumer. DOMPAS being a more complete certification is also the most used within the bedding industry. RDS will be found mainly in apparel, whereas RDS downpass will be found mostly into the bedding industry. To give you an idea, more than 30 million bedding products have been certified so far worldwide by Downpass 2017 Zero Tolerance. Certify first and foremost the material wasn't obtained from live animals. That's the very first thing. That the animals are provided enough space to grow without having to suffer inhumanly. So no cages, no small spaces, fresh water made available, healthy feed being provided, and the possibility of roaming in and outside of a specific, farm building. In terms of downpass, we will also find that may seem, odd, but downpass will also check the farms inside is climatized. So there's air conditioning, a humidifier to make sure that the living conditions are really up to a human level, so to speak.
Yep.
This will follow on, both of them, what will happen afterwards once the animals are shipped to the slaughterhouses, because as you probably know, duck and geese, specifically duck in our case, are bred for their meat. They're not bred for down and feather. We can read sometimes that, down and feather, cruelty, suffer. Well, that's a commonplace. There's a lot of sensationalism about it, a lot of buzzing. The reality is that less than 1.8% of down and feather worldwide comes from live animals. All of it comes only and exclusively from geese, and none of them come from Europe. None of it comes from Europe. And so once we take into account, and we know that we are recovering really a byproduct of the food industry, which is post-mortem, we'll also realize the environmental impact that has, because if we didn't recover it, you will have to be incinerated. So we will have a double loss, because we have the best insulation fiber that God created, and we will also be increasing the CO2 emission in the atmosphere by incinerating something that's very good. So once we reach the slaughterhouse, for example, unlike RDS, Downpass will certify the waiting areas. So the trucks have to be specifically equipped, always providing fresh water and feed if needed. And there will be parked in specific areas where, again, like in the farm buildings, the slaughterhouse has to provide climate control and the humidifier for the very cold months, and the opposite during summer months. So heat during winter, and cold air and humidity during the warm months. If we also go further in terms of the handling of the actual animals, this is something that RDS does not. What an auditor working, in terms of auditing for the Downpass certificate will do is to check how the personnel at farm level, at transport level, and at slaughterhouse level will handle the animals. So there'll be no taking the ducks by the neck, not taking them by grapes, not kicking, not throwing into bins, no cruelty whatsoever. And just for to make the point, we are very transparent. All of our clients have full access to our entire supply chain. Fatih's been with me on several occasions, and he can testify that we can hardly find another animal breeding sector where animals are as well treated in our region, in France in general, and I must say Europe-wide, because it's European legal directives, just French. So once we have said that, GRS, just a little recap, GRS will indicate the recycled materials being used to produce an upcycled brand new products. RDS will certify that no cruelty was inflicted to animals, no live animals were plucked, obtained down and feather, and all of this has been checked at each step of the way. DAMPAS will certify exactly what RDS certifies, but also the in-between steps, transport and handling, as well as the final quality of the products. And the only certification that takes into account the final industrial objective, which is to provide a product that will have amazing insulating and lofting properties. I hope this answers your question, Fatih.
Absolutely, yes. Until this point, we talked about the properties of down, some technical issues already, but we don't use down itself, okay? We produce products from down.
Right.
What are the benefits of down products? Why should we use down field items? What is the reason?
Right. That's like asking a carnivore if he loves meat and why we should eat meat. Right. Benefits, really, really, really simple and absolutely undisputable. Down and feather, down. Natural, sustainable, low impact, fully sanitized and apologenic, so very healthy, and with 95% lower environmental impact than polyester fiber.
Yeah.
Do I need to say more?
Actually, that's enough, all these are enough. By the way, how long can we guarantee the down product, down field items? Is there a guarantee?
Well, the filling, when we talk about down, we are talking probably one of the products with the longest life cycle on Earth. Since we are talking about field products, we have to look into the fact that it's a textile product, and so involving other components like cotton, linen, silk, or anything I use to make the casing, and the use of it, of course. Sleeping bag and a down jacket will have a shorter life, for example, than the bedding because of the use we make of them. In terms of bedding, we know that a downfield duvet, a downfield quilt, will have a life cycle that is at the very least 3 to 4 times longer than a polyester fiber field quilt.
Yeah.
So in average, in France, for example, polyester quilts normally don't have guarantees lasting more than 5 years, whereas with down, 20 years is quite the norm.
Okay, that's perfect to know. How should we take care of our down? Sorry, how should we take care of our down products?
Now that
that is an issue, I know.
It's a very important question because consumer will buy the comforters, the quilts, the pillows, and seller will ask himself, why? How do I take care of it? So some of them will look at the label to see what it says, but the label can really relay all the information. So if a consumer wants to have a long-lasting quilt or pillow, you will have to wash it at least once every 2 years, at the very least once every 2 years, in a washing machine. So you don't need a specific machine for it. If you have one at home, you just put your products into the washing machine, run a standard program, no more than 40 centigrades. You will add 3 tennis balls in it to ensure that the products get impacted everywhere to avoid, the clamping up of material within. Once we are through with the spinning, so we get rid of most of the water within, we put it through a dryer at a very low temperature or cold air for 3 to 4 hours with the same 3 bolts to ensure that there's all this is banging about that will ensure the products will remain fluffy. So it's very easy. That said, if you don't, if a consumer doesn't own a washing machine, and if they don't own, for example, a dryer, that's it's even less common, then they should just take their products to the local laundry and let a professional take care of it.
Okay. As an end customer, we sometimes hear some words, okay? One of is talk value. What is a talk value as an end customer?
As an end customer.
Yeah.
Okay, the torque system was invented by an electrician, an electrical engineer in the early 1920s in Great Britain. The idea was to create a machine that could measure the insulation value of many products. And here we are talking about bedding, which is the very last segment in terms of products that uses the top system. So top will be found mainly in Great Britain, the British Commonwealth, some other countries, and quite a number of bedding manufacturers that they distribute worldwide. For example, Maya uses togs. Right? Yep. The way it's carried out technically, and I cut it very short, is through a system of 3 probes with the known elements, which is the heating elements, giving a temperature. 3 probes measuring the heat between heating elements and the products being tested, the inside of the products being tested, and the outside temperature. All of that will then generate through a program a particular index number. The index will indicate the insulation quality of the particular product. The scale goes from 2 to 13.5. We can also find up to 15, but they're very rare. So in the market, you will find mostly TOG 2, TOG 13.5. 2 is what you will find in summer quilts, so very, very light quilts. And 12 to 13.5 are the top values found on comforters destined to very cold climates, very cold rooms, for example, and indicates a very high quality material inside. For example, using a very, very high quality N90, you can achieve easily 13.5 togs without real weight. We're talking less than 1.5 kilograms per comforter.
I see. I've got one more question to you. As you know, we are a quilt and pillow company. And in the beginning, I told you that we have also a washing line.
Yep.
Now, what is the main advantage of owning a feather processing plant, and what are the benefits for our clients? What do you think?
Well, in your case, and it's our case, but it's mostly yours specifically because you will then manufacture textile products destined to the market. Owning the processing plant, including washing and drying and standardizing machines, will allow a diversification in sourcing, so you can really pick and choose where you want your material to come from. You can adapt to market demands. So specific customer, very large accounts, for example, that might want a very specific quality, you can do that. Very important. That means that you will ensure that the products you sell are 100% sanitized and hypoallergenic. And overall, when you take everything into account, you can offer a larger range of products to the marketplace. Now, that is specifically true when the suppliers are not Interplume.
Nothing to say. Enrico, these were all of my questions, by the way.
Right.
Thank you very much for asking and
you're very welcome.
Replying, let's say, because you asked me a lot before. There are some questions coming. You know, I guess there's one question, but you know, it comes to us normally. Are there specific countries that produce high quality down and feather than other countries? This is one question. If there are, what is the difference? The process or natural difference? That's the question directly. Can you see that out here?
Yeah, I can actually read it. That's good. I've actually covered these elements, but I'll recap them in a single answer. Specific countries that produce high quality down and feather is not really about the country, even though we will find the best processor in specific countries, namely France, Poland, and in Hungary, for example. The difference really are the animal breeding. The natural difference, of course, is about the animal breeding to start with. And I can give you a straight, really solid, concrete aspects. If I take our species, the one being bred in our region here in France, which are Barbary and Murat, we are talking animals that are being raised between 12 and 16 weeks. That makes for a very, very large duck, much larger than a Chinese goose, to give you an idea. And whereas in China, for example, a duck will be raised between 5 and 8 weeks maximum. The average being 7 weeks. In France, we consider 7 weeks to be a duckling. It's not even a duck, where we are concerned. Down, in terms of down and feather, and specifically down, means that our down is fully developed. I wish I could actually share with you an image of a down cluster to give you an idea, where you can see that really looks like a three-dimensional snowflake. If you take your average Asian, specifically Chinese, Peking duck down, you will see that most of it, they are small bolts with very, very little fibers coming through. That's because the animal wasn't raised to maturity, and therefore everything concerning the animal is not mature, down and feather included. So that really is the main difference. Then, of course, in terms of quality, but we're talking about market quality. So we're talking about sanitation aspects and of course standardization, normalization aspects. Then yes, there are differences in processes from one company to another. We pride ourselves to be, the quality leader in France and one of the top 5 in the world. So we provide really the very top in terms of down and feather, originating from duck. 80% of the times with better values than goose down, whether it's coming from Europe or elsewhere. And then, of course, the last but not least important is the integrity of the company doing the processing. Transparency is really key to it. Being open, not just for audits, but to receive our customers and their customers to visit the entire supply chain, to show that this is not just, talking, this is making statements. And all of you are welcome to visit us. We will take you, everywhere. And that's where you see why Maya and us, we have this over 20 years long relationship. Quality manufacturer of wedding products needs a quality producer, quality process of down and feather to ensure the products that will finally get to the consumer really is in the top 5 in terms of quality.
Okay, there's one more question. I see a question from our friends in Macias. You want to say hello to them?
Are they written down?
Yeah, they ask, is the down keeping the same properties of insulation in the long run?
That depends on the condition in which the down is stocked. So if you're talking about stocking in bags, in press bags, you'll have a reduction of about 20% in volume at opening after a period of more than 1 year. But the material we recover is full field power by simply leaving it outside for 3 to 4 days or 6 days, if really was a long time the down was kept in stock. Ideally, so not everyone can do it, but larger companies normally have silos that can place, that can empty the material in, with the system allows to fluff it up before usage. That said, depending on the type of filling machines used, like one of yours, Sonia, which I know, by the way, when the actual filling is done through compressed air injection, we already take the problem of having left the down material compressed, because that particular action while filling a textile products will make the down cluster recover all their properties.
I think that's enough. You know,
Okay.
One of our colleagues in the company is asking a question. It's a chain question, let's say. She wants to know the difference between, the advantages and disadvantages, let's say, between Siberian, Hungarian, and Canadian down. The second question is, how can it be, how can it be possible to recognize the difference in between?
Does it
make a difference because when using?
Yeah, no. Well, I have to, to give my point of view as a processor. It is true, very often we find labels saying pure Siberian goes down, pure Canadian down. Jesus, that really is even better than Siberian. Sorry, I'm just being sarcastic. Siberian down, when coming from specific birds that were grown, how shall I say it, organically, in a yard, might provide larger cluster. So we're talking about animals that could be 3 to 4 years of age. The cost being very, very high, between 250 and 350 euros per kilogram, that particular material, before processing. And unfortunately, there's very little of it. So there's a difference when it is true, and it's not necessarily labeled. But we have to be wary of labels saying Siberian goes down, Hungarian goes down, Canadian goes down. Hungarian is a good down. Again, I go back to what I just said. It depends on how the animals were bred, raised, and how long they were raised. And then finally, it will depend also on the company that will process the down and feather. Okay. Now, Canadian down, I will make an exception on Canadian down, because Canadian down really it's a very tiny, very, very tiny population. Of course, we know Canada Goose, and all this Canadian down. Canadian down is almost non-existent. Most of it is cancer measure, and is imported to Canada, and within 3 weeks he acquires the definition of Canadian down once he gets re-exported or used in apparel. So there's no really way that unless you see it, not within a product, when you see it, in the open, to see which is which. If you can see the down cluster, just a handful of down cluster outside of textile products, true, honest Siberian down will be extremely big flakes, big clusters.
Yeah.
The Hungarian down, it really depends. It depends on the species, depends how long it was, the animals were raised and how were they processed. Okay. Canadian down, it's somewhere in between the two. If it's honest uterite, uterite raised animals, then it should be, you know, a better quality down, similar to Canadian. But if it's a smaller cluster, then, you know, we are again into the Canadian products washing, like we find them French washing, green washing, and so on and so forth. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's enough. We've got two questions that they are nearly the same regarding the care of the down products. Actually, you just gave a reply to this, but will you please repeat it again? How do we need to wash the products? Or how about the care instructions? What do you think?
I just have to repeat myself in terms of, you know, what you need is a washing machine, standard washing machine, really, in your home. Just place your, you know, your down products in a washing machine with 3 tennis balls. Use the standard washing program, no more than 40 centigrades. Spin it, that's very important to get rid of most of the water. And then even more important is the drying moment. You will need a dryer. You have to put your down products in the dryer and run it on cold air or very low temperature air for a period of 3 to 4 hours, always with the 3 tennis balls. If you don't have the washing machine, if you don't have the dryer, if you don't have either of them, well, you just take your down products to your local laundry or dry cleaner. Ideally, not dry cleaning, because the dry cleaning will leave some very nasty chemical components on top of your products.
You're right. There's an interesting question regarding the famous eider down. Which countries are able to produce eider down? Is it produced in a very limited quantity and where?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Which countries are able to produce eider down? Is it produced in a very limited quantity and where? That's exactly the question.
Right. Now, it is not correct to say producing eider down. Eider down is very special, it's very specific, and is also the best down in the world. And the eider duck, as the name implies, is a duck, it's not a goose. So we just take a stereotype out of the equation. Be collected by licensed operators. These licenses are given by the Icelandic government. There are only 12 people that can collect down from either ducks nests. It can only be done once the eider ducks families have left. So that happens normally quite late in the springtime. And these operators will literally climb deadly, rock formation in order to collect from within the nests all the down the mother ducks had laid down on the bottom of it to ensure that the eggs were kept warm while incubating there, and also the ducklings once born were kept warm. Eventually these 12 persons with this license will take whatever material they've managed to collect to, if I'm not mistaken, about 4 processors in Iceland, which are the very first step, and they are the 4 companies that can trade eventually eider duck down. From there, Iceland will privilege definitely Scandinavian countries like Norway and Finland as the first markets where this down will be processed like any other down and feather. So we all inherent losses, and it will eventually be sold onto luxury bedding products manufacturer. If I'm not mistaken, Fatih, you used to produce either that down
Yes.
for 40 years, a few years ago.
Yeah, in the previous years, we used to offer either down products, but not under our own brand. But
Okay.
we can offer, it's no problem. But we don't fill it by ourselves. We just had traded. But in any case, in any case, we can supply, all these stuff if needed.
Okay.
By the
I
way,
will add just one element for the profane, for the people who don't know. Either that down, the value of it, and I'm talking about if someone is, able and licensed to purchase it from the very first trading companies, is worth between 3,000 and 4,000 euros per kilogram.
Yeah.
To give you an idea. But another duck down cluster will have 200 times more filaments than your typical down cluster. So, in a totally different thing. It's absolute luxury.
Absolutely, it is. JP has joined us, by the way. Let's say hi to him.
He's late.
Yeah, slightly. There's one more question. It says, greetings from London. Hello, London. He's asking, what do you think about the Romanian and Bulgarian feather and down markets? I know that you are located in France. Maybe you have a couple of words or sentences about this, but the question is this.
I don't think anything about Romania and Bulgaria feather and down markets. We don't trade in either market.
Yep, that's why I was not asking this question, but that's the question anyway.
It was written, but it was a question.
Yep.
No, I don't think anything about it.
As far as I see, there is not more questions left. No, there isn't, huh? There is not. If everybody has a question, please write. I'm going to wait for like 30 seconds, sorry. If not, we will have to end. And Nico, in any case, thank you very much for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
Answering us, all these questions. We're gonna continue this, webinar series. Probably within 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, I don't know. We're gonna give you an invitation again. Maybe Enrico is going to join us. Maybe not, I don't know. But we're going to continue this. You're welcome, Sonia, by the way. Say hi to Alan. I see him.
Hola, ¿qué tal estás?
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Y realmente fue muy, muy interesante. Very, very interesting.
Por favor, a mandar esto es Alan. Bonjour, Ana.
Hasta el próximo.
Hasta la próxima. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anybody have a question? I think no. There are things are coming. So thank you everybody for joining us. Hope to see you again in the second one. And Nico, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take good care. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.